Well, good Monday morning, Central Georgia. You're taking a live look over a beautiful downtown Macon. The time is now 5 a.m. here on this April the 10th. Thank you so much for starting your week with us. I'm Wanye Reese. I hope that you and your family had a fabulous Easter. And man, Alex, the weather after about 9-10 a.m. I would say in Houston County, we saw the beautiful sky and the sun. It really panned out to be a beautiful day.
Yeah, quite the difference from Saturday, right? Where I was up in northern Georgia, get this, majority of the day on Saturday spent in the low 40s and upper 30s. So it felt like more like Christmas than Easter outside. 48 now in Macon, as well as Warner Robins, 46 in Dublin, 49 in Perry, and 46 waking up in Baldwin County. So generally speaking, 40s to the north, 50s to the south this morning. As we head through the morning hours, it would not surprise me to see these numbers drop a few more degrees. Also looking for a shower or two down to the south, parts of Wheeler, Telfair, Wilcox, and Crisp County before too long. Elsewhere across the southeast, a little more unsettled down along the first coast this morning, down into central Florida, otherwise 40s and 50s dotting the southeast as we look all the way out toward Oklahoma. Out the door today, looking for temperatures to find their way into the 60s, and that's going to be about it. 62 by about 2 p.m., 67 by 6. That will be our high temperature. Still a little cool compared to average. Partly cloudy skies. Sunrise is at 7:11. And did you notice over the weekend? Sunset now 8 p.m. or later. The first one of that was on Saturday. Coming up in a few minutes, we'll talk about our unsettled forecast beginning on Thursday and into the weekend. It comes your way in just a moment.
Thank you, Alex. I'll talk to you soon. Abortion rights could be heading back to the U.S. Supreme Court after two federal judges issued opposing rulings that could impact access to abortion medication. The White House is preparing to fight a Texas federal judge's ruling that seeks to invalidate the FDA's approval of the abortion pill mifepristone. Now, some say the FDA improperly approved the drug 23 years ago, ignoring legitimate safety concerns. The FDA insists the drug is safe and that the serious complications are rare. But in Washington state, a federal judge blocked any changes to the drug's availability in 17 states and Washington, D.C.
We've got two different sets of law, which kind of means it has to go to the Supreme Court.
Later today, Planned Parenthood is expected to hold a news conference on the Texas judge's ruling. In a statement, the group said, quote, the consequences of this case could be incredibly far-reaching, rather. Right now in Florida, police are investigating after a shooting that left 4 people dead. Early Sunday morning, witnesses heard gunshots in an Orlando neighborhood. When police arrived around 2:30 a.m., they also heard shots inside the home. Someone walked out of that house and shot at the police, who shot back. They went inside the home and found 3 people shot. 2 people died at the home and the 3rd person died at a hospital.
I'm kind of upset that even though I called the police, I still couldn't help her. That was the sweetest lady you ever want to meet.
It was unspeakable what had happened. Just tragic event here on Easter Resurrection Sunday.
The Florida Department of Law Enforcement will investigate the situation. Orlando police said no officers got hurt. This morning, a convicted murderer is back in custody after he walked away from an Atlanta facility last week. The Department of Corrections said 51-year-old Charles Edward Smith was at the Atlanta Transition Center completing his parole when he left on Wednesday. On Saturday, Smith was spotted in Lawrenceville. Gwinnett County officers used a police dog and an officer tased him. He was taken to the hospital for injuries from the dog. The time is now 5:04. Let's go ahead and catch you up on your local morning headlines. Today, the Bibb County Sheriff's Office will continue investigating at least 3 separate shootings that happened over the weekend. The Sheriff's Office says a 14-year-old girl was shot during a fight last night inside a home in the 700 block of Grosso Avenue off of Mercer University Drive. The teen went to a local hospital and is expected to recover. Deputies say they don't have a description of the shooter. Deputies also continue to investigate 2 drive-by shootings that happened. The first drive-by shooting happened on Saturday on Bloomfield Road. 15-year-old Ozias Gore was shot while in his kitchen. The second happened in a parking lot on Mercer University Drive on the corner of Burton Avenue. Shots were fired from a car and 24-year-old Trenton Walter Harris died. And in Cordele, a shooting suspect is in jail after leading Crisp County deputies on a chase. Officers found a man shot multiple times around 3 p.m. yesterday. Witnesses told investigators about a suspect, 27-year-old Sylvester Smith of Albany, and his car. An off-duty officer spotted the car and Smith led them on a chase until he crashed into a light pole. Smith was arrested and faces aggravated assault charges. We're going to have a lot more in these stories for you a little bit later on at 5:30. Remember, you can always find these stories on our website. That's at 13wmaz.com. Today, the Perry Panthers will get a new den to stretch out in. Perry High School will host a ribbon cutting ceremony and tour of the brand new Perry High School field house. The growing high school athletic program has been looking forward to the completion of the project. The new building provides locker space for both the home and the visiting teams. There's sports training and a weight room inside the 8,200 square foot building. The event is open to the public and starts at 10 a.m. The time is now 5:06 here on this beautiful Monday morning. Alex, I'm happy to see that the Masters was able to come to a close after some scary events that took place over the weekend with that tree falling down, and then they had the rain delay on Saturday. It was just a lot going on.
And after, what was it, probably 12 hours of golf yesterday, they were able to wrap it up.
It was a
the
marathon.
Third round and the fourth round. Yeah, lucky they were able to pull it out. It was funny on Saturday. I was watching. It was 15 minutes after CBS came on the air. They blew the horn for suspending play that day. But man, I'm surprised they went as long as they did on Saturday. Here's a live look over Dublin this morning. We've got temperatures in the 60s, in the 50s and 40s this morning. 46 in Milledgeville, 49 now in Perry, 46 over in Dublin, 48 in Macon and in Warner Robins, 43 the cool spot up in Monticello, 51 Unadilla and in Montezuma, 50 in Butler, 48 in Warner Robins, and 46 in Milledgeville. You factor in the little bit of wind we have out there, and it does feel a few degrees cooler in a few spots, but as we head through the morning hours, that will begin to relax as the temperature begins to, or as the sun begins to come up, that is. A few showers this morning down to the south. That's far southern Telfair, Wheeler, and to Wilcox and Cordele, or Crisp counties there. That might lift to the north here through the morning hours, so don't be surprised to see 1 or 2 sprinkles on your windshield. Other than that, we will be almost completely dry today. 57 in Columbus and in Montgomery, 60 in Pensacola, 44 up in Nashville. Through the course of the day today, we're going to find our way into the 60s with this northeasterly wind that we've had all weekend continuing, and that's going to keep us in the 60s as we go into the afternoon. Back down into the 50s and 40s later on tonight. There we go into Tuesday. We will make it back into the 70s on Tuesday. Not too warm though. Roughly where we should be for this time of year. After starting Wednesday off in the 40s once again, we will find our way warmer into the 70s by the time we get to Wednesday afternoon. 78 in Macon, 77 Warner Robins, and 76 in Unadilla according to that model run. But then things could get a little interesting towards the end of the week. So over the course of the week, down to the south into the Gulf of Mexico, this coastal low is going to be lingering around. Now the question is, how close does the low get to us in central Georgia? And that's going to answer the question of, well, could we see rain by the end of the week? So according to the European model, you can see we're getting some heavier showers in here Thursday evening. The GFS, not so much. Once we get into Friday, it does look like both models showing some scattered showers. And then once we get into Saturday, mainly drier before we get into next week. And here comes another front. So all of that to say, we're going to be watching the details of this low very closely. They are hard to predict, to put it mildly. So the forecast for the end of the week written in a number 2 pencil. The good news is, though, once we get to the weekend, it does look to be mostly dry. 20% chance rain Wednesday, 40% for Thursday and for Friday. Again, that is certainly subject to change. So far for the month of April, now 10 days in, picked up 1.38 inches of rain. That puts us up about 15/100ths of an inch, but we are still up over 4 inches on the year after a very wet January. That got us started on that wet note. So into the 50s before we get into the 60s later on, 67 being our high temperature, calling it partly cloudy and still a little cool by this time of year standards. Sunrise at 7:11. Then for tonight, sunset, 8:01. 42 the overnight low, a light breeze. Average low is 49, so we will be below that. The Braves back at it tonight at Truist Park, 60s down into the 50s. Here comes the 7-day forecast. Again, once we get into the end of the week, that forecast written in a number 2 pencil as things stand now, a 40% chance of rain Thursday and Friday.